was in high school, and I just wore like those Old Navy flip-flops with abandoned. I don't know. I could not live those days now.
I have tons of flip-flops. So, like I get them from J. Crew, and so they're nice and they're cute.
Yeah.
So I can't throw them away. So I still have them like in a bin in my basement. I'm like, well, maybe someday if I'm like sitting down.
I'm an elderly person and I am in a wheelchair.
I'm going to wear these
really
nautical flag flip-flops. They will return.
Oh, it's like everyone be like, oh, look, there's Miss Benson. There she is. Isn't she cute at 85 years old?
She's finally wearing flip-flops.
Rolling around in her wheelchair with really stylish shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, and welcome to Runnah, running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and beyond. I'm Julianna, and this time I think I actually said Runnah. So I think that's the first time, which is great because I named the podcast. But this week we have someone who is near and dear to my heart, who is a lovely human being, and is a local legend, I would say, here in Falmouth. We have Miss Lindsay Benson.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and that coming out of my mouth, you're not only a local legend because you are a runner, but you're also a teacher here in town, too.
Yes, Mullen Hall.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the kids know you, too, as a legend,
I
would say.
am a local celebrity, like at the grocery store and Walmart. Yes.
You have, like, reached peak celebrity status here in town.
Yes.
As most teachers, I imagine, do.
Mm-hmm.
You get the, oh, Miss Benson, you wear regular clothes.
Yes.
But why don't you give our listeners and our viewers an introduction into just how you found and started running? Like, where does the Lindsay Benson running origin story start?
Sure. Well, it doesn't start when I was a kid.
Yeah, like James. Just so you all know, James is her son.
Yes.
The one who was on a prior episode. So go back
The
and watch
11-year-old half marathoner. I was not an 11-year-old half marathoner.
Yeah, same. Ditto.
I grew up in a really big running family, though. So growing up, my parents were both runners. My dad ran the Cape Cod Marathon a few times.
Oh, did he?
Yep. They both did the road race.
I didn't know that.
My mom did a bunch of races in Worcester, that area. My older sister was like a great cross-country runner.
Oh.
I have pictures of myself when I'm little, like holding pom-poms at her cross-country meets.
Pro cheerleader.
But my younger sister and I were gymnasts.
Oh, okay. So that's funny. You and I share like a lot of weird history that was like unrelated, but weirdly is. I was also a gymnast when I was a kid too.
Oh, where did you go?
Gear
Me
gymnast?
too.
No.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. That is wild.
Yeah. So
How did we not know that?
Lived in the same town.
Yeah,
went to the same gym.
Yeah. We both grew up in Auburn. And that's so, well, I mean, it would make sense why we both went to the same gym if we both grew up in Auburn. But like, it's not the only gymnastics gym, though. There are other gymnastics
No, because my
gyms.
sister at one point transferred to a place in Shrewsbury.
I'm trying to remember the names of the other gyms that were in the area.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, same.
GLC?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
GLC.
Yeah. We had thought about going there. And then I think my mom knew someone at Jagiers or something. Or we had a family friend who went to Jagiers. I believe that was why we ended up there. Not sure.
Yeah.
But okay, fellow gymnastics people.
So I was like an athletic kid. Like
Yeah.
you have to be athletic to be a gymnast. And I have memories of back in the 90s when I guess children were either rewarded or shamed for athleticism in PE.
Yeah.
I remember getting the like presidential fitness award every
yes.
spring. Yes, because I know I could run a mile because that was part of it.
Yes.
You had to run the mile. So I was capable of running a mile, but did not like it, didn't want to do it. I knew my parents did it and was like, good job, guys, but no.
Yeah, great.
Even in high school, no interest in running. And I guess I kind of started running a little bit in college, just recreationally.
Just like stay in shape.
Yeah, or like...
Maybe like get rid of the freshman 10 or 15 or
No,
whatever
I was
most
like,
people get.
no, I like think all of the calories I consumed in college were from Jell-O shots and well drinks. So I was like, I was very small, not in good shape, no muscles. Maybe just to like build fitness or, I don't know, stress relief, I don't know. But it was nothing consistent at all.
Maybe burn off the Jell-O shots.
Yeah, they're very low calorie.
Yeah.
No. But
I don't know the number that you were consuming. I've been like outwardly impressed by people how much alcohol they can consume based off of body size. Just more recently, because my sister is getting married, so we like had like her bachelorette party. Wow, my drinking game is poor.
Oh, like looking back at when I was in college, it's like, ooh, how did I survive? I don't know.
It's wild.
now I have like 2 glasses of wine and I go to bed.
You're like, it's nap time.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. But you're kind of like dabbling in some light running.
Yeah, and then I started teaching after college. My first teaching job was at a residential school.
Oh, okay.
So it's for kids with more significant disabilities, and it's really physically and emotionally demanding. So I didn't do a whole lot of running at that time. But then once I transferred to public school, I started running more. And I started teaching high school. And it was kind of a way to connect with the kids because you have a lot of student athletes and they would have to run not even for like track or cross country, but for whatever sport they were doing. And I was like, oh, I bet I could beat you. And they're like, you could not beat me. Like, so, so I would have like races with the kids.
Oh, that's fun.
It was fun. It's like we'd do a mile race or a 5K race like around the school grounds, and that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
And at the same time, I would run sometimes, outside of school, just around my neighborhood. At the time, we were living right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
But in kind of a rural area, so there weren't a lot of good places to run. Like, I would run in our neighborhood, so it was like a circle, and then there were all these little dead-end roads that go off of the circle, so I would like run around in each of the dead ends.
Making a sun, essentially.
Sometimes I would go out of our neighborhood, but once you go out, it was like you go left, and you're like in farmland.
Yeah.
And then you go down the other road and you're in South Carolina, but like my husband used to get really nervous when I would run there because it was so remote. And like I showed my parents and they were like, ooh, this is like I hear banjos. Like
you're like, there are questionable things happening in this really like unmonitored section.
It really is. There was no one around. So it was
you yell, no one's hearing you.
I really stayed mostly in the neighborhood, which limits you because you're not going to run 20 miles around your circle and up and down the dead end roads.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I always say too that if I hadn't moved to Falmouth, I definitely would not be running, or somewhere like up the lake, I would not be running.
For sure. It was like a huge change for me.
Yeah.
Like even with when I was running, I didn't do a lot of races because I am not a morning person. And to run a race, it was like, oh, I'd have to drive to Charlotte.
At like 5 a.m.
It's like a half hour.
Yeah.
But I would fly here, and I hate flying. I'm terrified of flying.
Yes, I know this about you.
I would fly here to do Falmouth Road Race and Cape Cod Marathon Relay. So it was like, those races were enticing enough that I would come here from North Carolina to run them. But I think I only did 2 races when I was down there. I did the Santa Scramble once. I pushed James in the jogging stroller. And there was another one, Run for the Money, but I had broken a bone in my foot, so I walked it in the walking orthopedic boot they put you in, which I'm sure my doctor approved.
Yeah, definitely. The doctors approve all of us running on all of our injuries.
Right.
Yep, they definitely do.
Yep.
We all get the green light.
But I think, when I lived in Charlotte, I think the 7 miles for the road race was like the longest I had run. And then we moved here in 2015, and like you said, it's like such an amazing running community that it like sucks you in. Like,
yeah, you have no choice. Essentially, if you are like remotely involved with running or walking, it's just great. Also, too, like to speak on the safety aspect and just like being able to kind of run wherever you want, even if you go out running at like 5 or 6 a.m., which I know is not your preference, but you do that. There are still people out there. There's like little old ladies walking by themselves in every crevice of Falmouth. And so you're like, oh, okay, there are people. And my favorite thing that happens here in town is, this happened to me the other day too. People just start cheering for you. They'll like be like, good job. Or like if someone sees you more than once, like if I'm on the bike path and someone that's seen me more than once, they're like, yeah, looking good today. I'm like,
well, it was great when James was little, and this was before we moved here, we would still be here in the summer, I would bring the running stroller and run with him, and going up the hill at the heights with a running stroller, like everyone was like, yeah, you go. Yeah. Because it's hard, and that hill with a stroller, with like a 2-year-old who's telling you you're slow.
Yeah, that's some good motivation right there. Just yelling.
He used to go, Mom, do you need a break?
That's like the biggest like underhanded like insult. Do you need to sit down?
Yeah.
Would you like to take a break?
From a 2-year-old.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I love it so much. But so you are still living in Charlotte at this point and like commuting up here for the race, which arguably is a much worse and more intense commute than driving half an hour.
But it's more enticing.
Yeah.
It's more incentive for me. I wanted to do those races so much more badly.
Yeah, because they're fun. I mean, you know, now being very involved with the Falmouth Road Race, like how far away people come to run that race, which to me still is wild.
Right.
Like, and probably to you, I imagine, is still a little bit wild when you see some of those people who are like coming from, I imagine, like Thailand or like Russia or somewhere that's like really far away and like pretty hard to get here from. But when did you make your move up here?
2015.
2015. Okay. And was that for a job? Is that why you moved?
Kind of, yeah. Like we had moved down there in 2008, I think, and you know, then you know we had little kids at that point. James was 3, Finn was a baby, and I just happened to see a posting that came through my email. Like when you are looking at teaching jobs, you go to whatever the website is, and I would still get emails from them. And so I saw one that was at T-Ticket, and I was like, oh, like might be cool. Like we have kids, you know, we don't get to see the family that much if we came back. And the house that we live in had been my grandparents' house.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't even actually call my parents because I was so afraid of what they were going to say. I think I sent them an email. It was like, would you ever consider, would you consider, you know, letting us live in that house and we would move back? And they obviously said yes, and it was the best move that we could have ever made. I mean,
that's great.
Not just for my running, but you know, the relationship that the kids have with my parents and Matt's family,
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I will say too, I feel like me moving here to Falmouth, and in another weird parallel, is one of the best moves I've ever made too, because I weirdly enough at that point was living down south too.
Of course you were.
Yeah, of course. Me and Lindsay's lives weirdly parallel each other.
Doing gymnastics.
Yeah, doing gymnastics at the same gym, growing up in the same town.
Going south.
Yeah, both going south to somewhere. I mean, I was a little bit less rural. I was in Richmond.
Yeah.
But I ended up moving like to Henrico, was on the outskirts of Richmond because I was working at a nursing home out there. But like still, I will stand behind that moving to Falmouth is one of the best decisions I've made in my life. So I can support that.
Yeah.
So you move up here, you've been running the Falmouth Road Race, you're running one of the legs of the Cape Cod relay, getting your piece of the shell every year. Coveted piece of the shell. And where did like running marathons and like running longer distances start like coming into the picture?
I think it just kind of slowly, naturally evolved. I mean, living here, it's so beautiful. Like you don't want to stop running. Like I had to really push myself in North Carolina. Like how many times am I going to run around the circle?
Yeah, how many circles are you going to do today?
And here you're running along the coast, and it's like you sometimes get to the point where like, okay, if I don't turn around now, I'm going to regret it.
You're like, I'd like to go up to and see Nobska today, but if I do that, that adds another 3 miles on. I'm really not trained to run 23 miles today, but it would be nice to go up to Nobska today.
And honestly, what got me to do my first marathon was the Winter Challenge. You know the Winter Challenge?
Oh, yeah, with Carl.
Yes. So I signed up for the Race Cancer Winter Challenge. I think it was my second year doing it, because my first year, it was just like, okay, I have to run a mile outside every day. Like,
yeah, and so for people who don't know what that is, the format of that is it's like a virtual challenge.
Yeah.
You get like a funky name given to you by, what's Carl's last name? Gustafson? Yeah, so Carl is the one who used to, is he doing this anymore?
He does still.
Okay. I know he's backed off of a few of the things that he was doing originally. So you are supposed to run, walk, go do a mile outside every day for all of January, correct? Because I participated in that one year. And it's a pretty fun, like, little thing that happens. I'm really impressed by some of the people who are out there. You and I have found one person who I don't understand how she gets that many miles in a day.
I'm so upset about that. There are people who cheat at the Winter Challenge. I will die on this hill.
Oh, I stand as someone who like actively, because I remember you telling me about it.
Of course I did.
And then I remember doing it the next year, and I was like, how is this possible?
She runs 28 miles a day outside at an 8-minute pace.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm like, as the person now who, like, I work from home now mostly, and I have a treadmill desk, and I've been walking, like, while I'm working, and, like, the max I've done in a day is with my running and walking combined over, like, a 10-hour work day, if I'm working, like, a longer day, is, like, 22-ish miles total, with running and walking. And the walking is, like, a 25 to 30-minute mile pace. Like, it is not a speedy pace.
Yeah.
And, like, I consider myself a decently fit person. I don't understand how this woman is running 20 miles a day at, like, 8. We will not drop any names, but not that anyone will even know this woman anyway.
I don't remember their name.
I don't remember. I think her name's, I think her name started with an M, but like I could be totally wrong. But
I probably have a screenshot of it somewhere.
you probably do. But some people they cheat, and it's unfortunate.
Why? There's no prize.
The prize is like weird little janky things that Carl has in his back.
But Carl doesn't like run it though. Like that's his team. So like there's no prize for the overall winner because she wasn't on our team.
Oh yeah, you're right. She's not on the team.
She was just part of Race Cancer Challenge.
So weird.
Yeah.
I don't understand. People are wild. Mm-hmm. They're doing wild things out here on these streets. But so you're outside.
Yeah, so the first year I kind of dabbled in it. It was like, okay, I've got to get in my mile a day. And I was figuring it out. Like, I remember getting up really early to do some, and I was like, well, this is terrible. Now we know that's not when I run.
Getting up early and in the cold.
In the cold.
In January.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but I did it. So then I signed up again the next year, and I like really went for it that year. I did a lot more miles. I was more comfortable with it. I'd kind of figured out my groove with how do you get this done.
Yeah, because you don't have to stop at 1 mile.
No, and I didn't. So like most days I would do more than that. So. And this was around the same time that Falmouth Running Club was putting out the like, oh, we have these waivers to run the Boston Marathon.
Ah, yes.
And I was like, well, if I can run this many miles outside in January, and this, I want to say it was like, was it 2018 when like the ocean froze over literally?
I believe so. I want to, yeah.
It was like, it was so cold and it was so hard. It was like, if I can do this, like maybe I can do a marathon. Like maybe I can do this. And I didn't apply right away. I think I checked with my dad and also my friend Alicia. Was like, do you guys think I can do this?
Do you think I can?
Because I needed that validation, and they were like, absolutely you can. So I applied for it, and I got the waiver like on the high of the winter challenge that year.
Yeah, and then you ran the Boston Marathon that year.
Yeah, that was waffle.
That high went down real quick. But also for anyone who hasn't watched the show before and doesn't really know why Lindsay got a bib, any of the local running clubs around here that I believe are nonprofits, the Boston Marathon generally gives out at least a couple of bibs to them to kind of divvy out to their running club members as they feel fit. And here at the Falmouth Running Club, we usually get 3 bibs, and it's given, you have to put in an application, and it's given priority to people who are like active volunteers with the club. And how much you volunteered is more or less. The 2 criteria are how active are you in the club volunteering, and are you ready to run?
Right.
The Boston Marathon, if we give you the bib, what's the percentage rate that you will actually show up to the starting line? So that's usually what it is. And if you are a Falmouth Running Club member, you too can apply to get a bib. Fun time. But you got the bib, and what was your thought process like? Were you like excited to run Boston? Were you nervous to run Boston? What were you thinking about? Like, oh my gosh, I just got into one of the most prestigious marathons in the entire globe.
I was excited. I mean, it's cool for that to be your first marathon, and I was pretty confident going into it because
right, this is your first marathon.
It was my first one, yeah.
You told me that, but it wasn't clicking, and now it is.
And like, I didn't follow a training plan, but like I signed up for like the Martha's Vineyard 20 miler, which is in like February.
It's really good timing for Boston.
Yeah, and I did it. I was like, oh, I did it. Like I can do 20 miles.
Yeah.
Like, so I wasn't really anxious about it. I did Stu's out in Central Mass, the 30K, which is like super hilly.
Yeah.
And I want to say it's like 18 point something or 19 miles.
Yeah, so you really just like dove head in.
Yeah.
Like head first and was just like, yep, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah, and I went on training runs. I had a friend who was on my relay team, my friend Danielle, and she was training for the marathon too. So we did a lot of training runs together. We would train around Packagug Hill, which you know, in Auburn, Mass, which is the very big hill that the College of the Holy Cross is on.
Yeah, there are parts of that hill where you physically have to walk because it's such a steep incline.
No, I grew up on that hill.
Yeah, you got me beat then. I didn't. My parents live like a little bit further, closer to like, what is it, Route 9? That's the main one that has all the car dealerships on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 20, Route 20.
Or Route 20, that's what it is. Yeah, they're like right off Route 20. So I grew up more or less running the hill that's closer to the Congregational Church. Yeah. Where Mary D. Stone is. But Packagug Hill is a little bit harder for me to get to, and I try to avoid it if I can, because it is real freaking steep.
It is.
It is. That is a hill.
It's one that now I run with James sometimes, and I'll be like, I did it, because he is a chatterbox when he runs, and I'm like, we're running up Packagug Hill, like, I can barely breathe.
Yeah, we need to, like, not talk right now.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, but he can run up it. He's done it a few times.
You know, I thought you had run marathons before you ran Boston, because I met you, I believe, like, right in the precipice of you, like, right before you had gotten that application for Boston, because I moved here in 2017. Yeah, that makes sense. And I got kind of involved with the running club at the end of like around Cape Cod Marathon time in 2017. And I think that's when I met you. So I thought you had run multiple marathons before you ran Boston. So
I just had the look.
Yeah. You just like, look at me.
Because all my clothes are running clothes.
Everything you wear. Like most people who are too deep into running, almost everything you own, 90% of the clothing you own is something running related. Whether it's a nice item or not, it has like the Falmouth Running Club or the Falmouth Road Race with the Cape Cod Marathon logo plastered on it. So, but that's super interesting. How did you feel having that Boston Marathon be your first marathon ever? And like now, obviously in retrospect, having done Boston again and then other marathons, like what was the experience like? Because that was the hellhole year.
It was, but it was also like, now that it's over, it was an awesome experience. Like, it was so cold. I would say it was like 37 degrees. It was like just above freezing. It was pouring rain. The wind is blowing it at you. I ran in a trash bag for the first time in my life.
Those pictures.
But I think I did a really good job. Like, you knew it was coming. It wasn't a surprise. So I was able to kind of plan, like, all right, how am I going to dress for this so that I won't be too hot or too cold?
Yeah.
And I did a good job with it. And you'd see all these people, on the side going into the medical tents because they were, hypothermic. And I had like Under Armour on and my hat and.
See, that would have been me. I know where my body limits lie, and like that whatever you ran. That's why I give you so much kudos too, because I would have probably been the person who woke up in the hospital the next day and was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Because I would have just kept going until I fell on the ground.
I really think my trash bag was the VIP of that day. It kept me dry, my whole core.
Probably.
It's for real.
Yeah.
Love the trash bag.
Because of you, I bring a trash bag to every single race that
I had never run in a trash bag or a poncho ever in my life until that point. I was like, why would you do that? And then that happened. I was like, oh. And now I have ponchos. I keep them in my closet. And I've run the Cape Cod Marathon half twice in absolutely abysmal weather in the ponchos. Yes.
I have, whenever I go and travel for a race now, or like I'm packing a drop bag, there's a trash bag goes in there. You never know you can use a trash bag part. You can sit on a trash bag, you can do something with a trash bag, and a poncho. And I have some ponchos that have lived with me for years because I bought like a 5-pack. Yeah. And I just keep them there. I have like a marathon stuff bag. And they just live in there. Yeah. And I take them with me. And if I need them, I use them. If I don't, I take them home.
Yeah. But while I was running, like I was good. Like it wasn't pleasant, but like I was warm enough. I felt pretty good. It was once I stopped that it was like all of a sudden it hits you like you're freezing. Yeah. And the BAA had warming buses at the finish, which was great, except like I'm trying to meet up with people. So like I don't want to be on the bus. So I'm like trying to find my people. I'm freezing cold. I finally found them. I went to change, and because I'd been running in the pouring rain for 4 hours, I had like chafed. Like I took my sports bra off on, and it was like soaked in blood. And I was like, this is really nice.
You probably didn't feel any of that.
No, I didn't until I took it off. But then I changed into my warm clothes, and we all went out to lunch, and it was like the best day ever. My husband came to meet me, and my friend Alicia, who I asked if I would be able to run the marathon, came with her husband, and it was just the best celebration. It's like I did that. Like all these elites dropped out of that race that day.
What was I feel like the attrition rate was like 60% or something.
Yeah, it was like I did it.
Yeah, that's. Again, as someone who knows that like my body would have crapped out on me, like I just know which conditions I can run in. You can put me in 110 degree heat, I'm good. Yeah. Like I'm fine. I can sweat like it's my job. But you get below 30 degrees and it's raining and wet. No. Yeah. So I give you a lot of kudos for that. I'm just like I don't even know how Lindsay did that.
It was not that bad. Honestly, I think I ran the Charles River Marathon. Have you heard of that one?
I remember you telling me about it.
It's in September. It was the first weekend in September, which is hot. Yeah. And it's in Boston. Yeah. And you just run loops. It's the loops. Yeah. So it's like you're so hot and you're running 10 loops around the river. And that was the one where I was like, oh my God.
This is the end.
I started listening to an audiobook. I was like, I need something to get me through this. And I don't listen to books when I run.
I was going to say, if I start listening to an audiobook when I'm running, I've hit like a really low point where I'm like, I need something. Someone save me.
Yeah. So like Boston 2018 was intense, but it was like awesome. And I was engaged the whole time and I got through it. It was not, my hardest marathon to get through was Charles River.
Because it was just so unstimulating.
It was very unstimulating and very hot. And then, this is like a kind of related story about that one. So the day that I ran Charles River, James was running the Main Street Mile. which is now the Surf Drive Mile.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can get back in time to watch it.
Yes,
No problem, right? So I finished the Charles River Marathon. I was like, ooh, don't have time to walk or cool down or stretch. Got to hop right back in the car and drive to Falmouth.
That was a smart move,
right, it was super smart. So I got to Falmouth, parked in the municipal lot, and like went to get out of my car and was like, ugh. Like, yeah, like I couldn't like straighten my legs. I was like stuck in a sitting position. So I got up and like walked toward the start. They had just started, so I'm like trying to kind of jog after the end of the race. Like I can see the people, but like I'm not with them. And people like the spectators were like, "Oh, are you the sweeper?" And like I'm dressed in like my Falmouth Track Club singlet and like my hair's all up. Like I look like a hardcore runner, but I'm like can barely move, look like haggard. Like, yes, I'm the sweeper and I'm having a really tough time finishing this mile race.
Yeah, I've gone a full quarter of a mile and I am dead. At what was probably like a 25-minute pace, mile pace. Yeah,
but I made it. I walked to the finish and
there you go.
I didn't get to see him finish, but I was there to congratulate him.
Yeah, and that's what matters. I'm always impressed by the people who scared by for the people who like hop on a plane right after a marathon.
Oh.
They're like, yeah, my flight's in like an hour. I'm like,
oof.
I was like, first off, you had to make sure you made it to the finish line in time.
Yeah.
And then you now have an hour to get to the plane where you will be sitting for X amount of hours on a plane. Notorious for not having good leg room.
Right.
So you have a nice time. I'm not going to be able to peel you out of the seat when you get to wherever you go.
No, that's wild. Planes and right after marathon? That's
no.
A nightmare scenario for me.
Yeah, you're like, absolutely not. I do not like planes, or I do not. And I've already learned that is not for me.
There's not enough Ativan.
No, not in the world for that. You need like hardcore, like actually anesthesia for that. Just knock you right the heck out.
Yep.
Love it. So you run Boston, and then what happened after Boston? Sounds like you caught the running bug.
Yeah, for sure. Because then I had been messaging with you. It was like, hey, next year, Charter Challenge sounds like might be fun, right? Oh, it's not. But but you have to do it once.
Yeah, if you live in Falmouth, like
you have to do it.
Marathons, like you just got to do it at least once to say that you did.
You did it. Like I don't want to do it again. No offense.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I'm running my first 50K this year, so it's 30 miles.
Yeah.
We'll see what we think. I don't know.
Yeah, I did that one and Charles River like back-to-back months. So I did Charles River in September, and then I did the Charter Challenge in October.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of a lot.
It was a lot. But it was fun. I mean, I'm so glad I have it. I love that. Like, I have a display of medals in my bedroom, as all adults who are normal do.
Yes. Mine lives in the entryway to my apartment. Thank you so much.
But I have, like, I put them out a certain way, so, like, the ones that are more important to me are kind of in the front still, even though there's, like, many rows of them.
Yes.
And that one is way out in the front, like, middle front.
My Charter Challenge medal is my favorite medal that I own. Like, aesthetically, my New York City Marathon medal is the prettiest one. Like, just like if we're basing it just on aesthetics.
Yeah.
But the Charter Challenge medal is my favorite. And, like, that mug lives on I have, like, a little, like, armoire display case. It's in the front of that little case.
Mine is on my husband's dresser. I don't know how it ended up in that space, but it is on display in our room.
It makes a good, like, catch-all. It's a big enough mug where you can just, like, throw whatever you want in it. Also, will say, it does work well for soup or any other kind of liquids.
Won't use it because I don't want it to break.
Oh, okay. I've used mine a couple of times. But, like, I don't really use it for that much. But, yeah.
Like, I have kids in the house.
Yeah, see, I just have a dog.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my dog's probably even worse than my kids with breaking things.
Myrtle's pretty good about, like, not touching things that aren't hers.
Bailey has a tail. The tail, like, she's got this very waggy, happy tail that just swipes things.
Myrtle's tail is very violent. It does destroy. That's the only part of her that does destroy things, I will say. I agree. But, yeah, I feel like if you do live in Falmouth and you do run marathons, running the Charter Challenge.
You have to do it once, at least.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is you run the half marathon on the Saturday and the full marathon on the Sunday. And 39.3 miles total across 2 days.
And one of the days will inevitably have terrible weather.
Yes. Yeah. I think you got
it was the good half marathon weather, and it was awful marathon weather.
That's what it was. Yeah. That was a wild time to be had. That was the year it hailed on us.
Yeah.
I've never been hailed on in the eyeballs before or after that. That was a one-time exclusive. Even like in daily training runs, I've never had that happen to me again.
Yep. I was so cold at the finish too. Like, I mean, along the same lines as Boston, but maybe worse because I feel like I wasn't as prepared because like it didn't start out that bad. And
well, and Saturday was gorgeous.
yeah, I remember like
There
messaging.
was like no wind or anything.
My
It was
family
sunny.
still does the relay, and I remember like messaging them and being like, someone needs to bring my coat. Like I need to put my coat on,
Yeah.
which I wasn't expecting. So in my finished pictures, I'm like running with my coat, but it's unzipped because like the weather was like I don't know what to do. And then I stopped and was cold, and they were like, do you want anything at the finish? And I was like, no, I just want to go home. And I went to save my run, hit discard. The worst,
No!
right? No. So
The tragedy.
Garmin was like, you did not even do that.
You're like, but I did.
Right. My fingers were so
Added
cold.
back in as a manual Strava activity.
Yes.
Forgot to accidentally delete it.
Yep.
Oopsie-daisies. That's probably one of the worst things to manually input into
Yes.
Strava. Or if I just imagine that person who runs like a 100-mile like ultra marathon is like, oops, forgot to hit start.
Oh. No.
That's a nightmare right there waiting to happen. That was an odd year too, because I remember me and Mike finished around about the same time, and because he was just running the full marathon. And I remember had like let my family know ahead of time. I was like, will you be there with my coat at the end? Because it had started to rain at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no. And I was like, please just be at the end with my big giant yellow bean coat. That's all I want. Just please be there and park somewhere that's close. And like that, they did both of those two things. So I said, thank you so much. And we
That's good.
they brought me like coffee from Dunkin' Donuts afterwards. I was like, yeah, I need a hot coffee. I need my jacket. I need to change clothing immediately. Luckily for you and I, we both live down the street.
Yes.
So I imagine it wasn't too long before you got to like warm clothing.
No, hot shower as soon as I got home. Like I didn't even take a picture at the finish with my medals. Like I was like, I just want to go.
And
So,
like, I'm done.
so like my finished picture that I have with my medals, I'm like wearing big sweatpants and like my big Falmouth sweatshirt. That was post shower.
I love that. Yeah, it's just sometimes your brain just gets in a weird spot when you're finishing. You're like you stay in the game the whole time, but as soon as you finish, your brain just disengages fully, and you're like everything is done.
Yeah.
Life is crap. This is the end. But during the race, you're like everything is great. It's like running is weird. Running is really weird. But that was a wild time. That was fun. And then what happened after that? COVID happened after that.
Yeah.
So we had like 2 years where there wasn't really much running. You were doing a lot of virtual races, though.
Yeah, I did. I am a person who doesn't hate the treadmill, especially when I'm like used to it. Like I've been running outside, so right now I am not liking the treadmill because it takes me a while to get back into it. I'm very anxious about like getting flown off the back.
You and I both have a lot of similar things. I also have that anxiety too, where I'm like, I'm the person who's constantly clipping the front of the treadmill.
I do that too.
Because I don't want to fall off the back. Like I'm like, I don't want that for myself. Like I don't need that. Like if I get like a little bit further back than I normally am from the front, I'm like, oh no. We either turn the speed down or we like start running a little bit faster.
I ran last night a little over 7 miles on the treadmill, and before I went downstairs, I said to my husband, like, do not come downstairs because I hear the door and I'm like, and then I'm like watching for who's coming down, and I'm like afraid they're gonna try to engage with me because like I have to focus on keeping my cadence, or like I feel like I'm gonna mess it up and I'm gonna fall or fly off the back.
Well, especially if like I'm in the same boat as you too. If I'm used to running outside and then I just jump on the treadmill, like the last 2 weeks I've run like once on the treadmill. I ran on the treadmill this morning, and like especially the first couple miles, I really got to concentrate because I'm a person too, and you can I don't know if you are too, but when I'm running on the road, I kind of like move a little bit from side to side, especially with the wind here. Like you kind of just got to let the wind move you a little bit. And especially the way it's been the last couple of days when I'm running outside, like I just kind of like, you kind of got to like lax your muscles as much as you can a little bit and like let the wind just kind of take you and hope it doesn't do the thing where it hits one of your legs and then you almost trip yourself. Yeah. Which has happened to me a couple of times. But like I when I got my new treadmill that I have now, I made sure it was like one of the wider belts I could find because I know I drift. I drift back and forth. My last treadmill I had a much more narrow belt, and I found myself like clipping the edges because I would just like start zoning out and I would just start drifting. I'd be like, oh no. But like the more I treadmill run, the less that happens. Right. And that's what I was saying. So like during COVID, I ran on the treadmill all the time. Like I was afraid to run outside at one point, so I just ran on the treadmill all the time, and I did the virtual Boston Marathon that year on the treadmill, which
was when I learned that my treadmill turns off at 3 hours.
Oh, does it?
It sure does. I was like,
okay.
whoop, back into the front. And I was like, oh, you have to reset it at 3 hours.
And you're like, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was training for my first half marathon, I did like all my training inside because it was the middle of the summer in Richmond, Virginia. And it was like 110 degrees, like 100% humidity. I was like, I don't choose death today. And I was not as well trained as I am now either. I did not know my body signs as well as I do now. And I remember I learned real quickly that those things turn off at an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. And did almost the same thing where you like slam into the front. You're like, it just like stops or like starts to count. Like you're running at like a 7 or 8 or 9, whatever it is on the treadmill. And all of a sudden it goes down to like a 2 for a cool down. And you're like, whoa.
Oh, see, mine didn't do that. It just like stopped.
Just like straight up was like, this is the end. We're done. You used me enough today.
I probably should have like read the manual or something. I don't know, but I had no idea what was going to happen.
Mine definitely goes past 3 hours because I've done over 3 hours on it. So I don't know where the limit lies. So I don't know. That's an interesting thing to think about. That's not something I looked at when I bought my treadmill.
Yeah, so anyone who's looking at doing a marathon on their treadmill, read the manual, find out when it turns off, if it does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's definitely, I feel like treadmill running is such like a taboo subject in the running world, which is funny because all pro athletes use treadmills. Like, it's not like something that people don't use. And unless you want to like put your life in danger and you want to like run pretty regularly throughout the year, if you live in a state like Massachusetts, you kind of got to use a treadmill at least once a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just because there are certain days, like the thing we run into up here in Falmouth, I feel like the most, which is like a big no-no in my head, is the ice.
Yeah.
Like just because you can, and it's black ice.
Well, like when I did the winter challenge those times, I had to get like yak tracks, which are those like spikes that go on the bottoms of your shoes. And even then I feel like I was like barely running because I was so scared because it was so icy.
Oh yeah, those are the days where it's like, is it better to just like take the L and run on the treadmill? Or is it better to like be terrified that you're going to fall and break your hip with every single minute step that you take outside? I'm like, this is a treadmill day. Like
now I am because I'm not in the winter challenge, but
yeah, there you go. You don't have to worry about it as much, which is nice. You're not doing the winter challenge this year?
I can't. Why do you think that is?
I think that
soccer.
Oh, soccer.
Soccer. My kids play like really competitive soccer, and it is just absorbed our lives. So
yeah, that's why you get to do that like L curve run that you do.
That it's in Kingston, yeah. So when they're training in the fall and in the spring, it's like 3 or 4 days a week we're in Kingston for like 2 to 3 hours. And so to keep myself busy and because it works, I just run loops around the parking lot. There's a half-mile loop and I just run. Yeah. And that's great. But in the winter training is worse because they're like at indoor facilities and there's nowhere for me to run. So like I can't get the miles in there, and Mondays and Fridays they're in Hanover and then Braintree until 9. So we don't get
on school night?
Well, Mondays, yeah. And then the other day's Friday. But we don't get home till after 10. So it's like
I wonder why kids don't like sleep very well.
I cannot, I won't get up early. No. I will not do it.
We
so
set rules for ourselves.
And I'm not going to go outside and run a mile at 10:30 at night. So I just like, until we're done with this, when we're done with our soccer era, maybe I'll do it again, but not right now.
That's wild. Oh gosh, this is reason 556 by Julianna does not, like, having children is not my calling. Like I fully support people who want to have kids having kids, but like for me personally, not my calling in life. Every time I hear about like things like this, I'm like, oh gosh.
It's worth it. Like the joy on their faces. I have a picture that I took of Finn when they were in a tournament this fall, and he's just the smile on his face, when they're doing well. Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I identify with that. Like I have like Daniel, who's been on the podcast, who I work with one-on-one too, and like he's kind of my adopted kid at this point.
Yeah.
Just not as involved. I don't have to bring him to soccer, which is kind of nice. But so where do we leave off? You're marathoning. I think we should probably start talking about what happened like with the 2021 Boston Marathon, because that kind of started your health journey.
Yeah, I like turned 40 and my body was like, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done being healthy. I had like no health issues my whole life. And then the first one that same year, I think it was before that, was my first stress fracture.
Okay.
I got a stress fracture in my fibula, which is a non-weight bearing bone. So like,
Yeah, you get
way to
bonus points for
go.
that.
Right. So I was like, oh, like what is happening? And I found out that I overpronate. Had an orthopedic surgeon and a physical therapist get me in the right gear. So now I have had no more orthopedic issues, which is wonderful.
That's a good thing.
But then we were running Boston in 2021, and like I had fantastic training runs for that race, like really good in Auburn, like on Packagug Hill. My 20 miler was on Packagug and was like totally ready for it.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about that because we were like seeing like, are we gonna hit around the same pace?
Yeah.
What are we thinking? And we determined like, we were both in about the same like shape wise, and things were probably gonna be good. So, and we coordinated everything, and then things just kind of went downhill.
Yeah, started out pretty strong, and then at like, what did you say, mile 16?
I'd say because I remember at mile 18, I was like fully alone by myself.
Yeah, that was when I stopped.
Yeah, and I was just like, from here on, I'm by myself.
Yeah.
And like, I just remember this was a marathon where I was dealing with like the beginnings of my weird joint issues.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm going to be the one to make Lindsay stop and walk. Because this was the first marathon where I was like, Julianna, you might actually have to walk in this marathon. And the opposite ended up happening of instead of you walking with me, I ended up walking with you.
Right. So
and,
like,
which was a surprise to both of us.
Around that like mile 16, my heart rate got really high.
Yeah,
so
your breathing got really freaking weird.
Normally when I'm running at my marathon pace, my heart rate's like 140.
Yeah.
That's my normal, and I know it because you train so much. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And my heart rate was like in the 160s, like 168. And I was like, all right, which I only know because I felt weird, like something didn't feel right.
And
like
you sounded weird, and you looked kind of weird.
Yeah. So we stopped. We did a walking break, and I remember being like, maybe I'm not feeling right. Like I took more gels. Yep, Gatorade. Ran a little bit more. It didn't go away. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to mess with this because it's my heart rate. Like I don't want to end up in a med tent.
No, you don't.
I want to finish. So I was like, you go. I'm just going to walk. I think I walked to like mile 25, and then I like jogged in the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And so I emailed my doctor and my charted them like as soon as I got home. I was like, what is happening? Because this is not normal.
No.
So she referred me to a cardiologist, and I had all kinds of tests done. I had to wear like a Holter monitor.
Yeah, the heart monitors. Yeah, I remember that.
And it turns out I have a heart arrhythmia. And they were like, well, we're surprised you never noticed it before. Like when it starts, it kind of feels like your heart skips a beat and then it goes really fast. And I was like, oh, it's like, no, I know what you're talking about. I always thought that was my anxiety. And they were like, no. So I had it for a while. It had just never happened when I was running before.
Oh.
So it's happened a couple times since then. It's something that I'm able to just kind of monitor. They said avoid triggers. So the triggers, though, are things like stress and caffeine, which, of course, I'm like, oh, I should be fueling more. Let me suck down this gel full of caffeine.
Yeah, that has sugar and caffeine in it, which is just
making it worse.
Uh-huh.
What else? I don't know, like things that like have to do with running. Like it makes it hard. So I'm like, oh, like whatever. But now like it happened once during a spin class, like a live spin class.
Oh, okay.
Out in Mashpee. But I was like, once I see it, I'm like, oh, like I just need to reel it in. I need to take deep breaths, like use these strategies to get back to baseline. And I can recover. I haven't had to have
any like medical intervention.
No, there is like a thing where I forget what it's called, where they can like go.
You get like a heart like regulator almost.
No. I forget.
Some kind of surgery.
Yeah, like a little minor thing, but I haven't had to do that. It's not.
Well, that's
but it was good to know because now I know. Like, and when I run, if I see my heart rate starting to go up where it shouldn't be, like I know. Okay, stop.
Take a breath.
Yeah, and
chill.
And I can usually kind of get back to it. There's not a lot of times where I've had to completely stop because I can get it back now that I know what it is. But when you don't know what it is and you're just trying to push through, like, oh, I'm in a race, like, let's keep going.
I remember I got to the finish line because my mom was the one picking us up because your parents dropped us off and my parents picked us up. Again, both in Auburn. And I was like, oh yeah, she's like, where's Lindsay? We lost her on the tracker. Like, she looked like she was behind you, but we thought she like might be off. I was like, oh no, she had some kind of like health issue. She's somewhere back there.
I was back there. I did it. I got it done.
And I was like, what? I was like, yeah, she's coming. She's on her way.
I got amazing photos though too, because I was like,
oh,
hey, look, there's the Sitco sign. Hey.
posing.
Yes.
You have time to do it, you know.
And you're like, I'm walking with it, and I'm like, ooh, the photographer.
Yeah,
Pick it up.
I feel like you and I have both mastered the art of looking faster than you are actually running.
Yes.
It's an art form. People are like, wow, Julianna, you run so fast. I was like, no. You just have to master.
You know where the photographer is.
Yeah, we master the art of looking like you're running faster than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Get those arms, get the legs up a little bit.
Right.
Just make it really look, and then you just carry on.
But it wasn't bad. I finished in like 4.5 hours, you know.
Yeah, you did it. Again, I was very impressed by
so it wasn't like
how close behind me you
no
were.
Shame in that finish.
No, not at all. It was a pretty nice day too. Like it was actually for a day that compared to your last Boston before that, compared to for a day that you had to walk. Some of it, what a nice day for a walk
for
it was.
sure. Oh my gosh, it would have been miserable if that was 2018.
Yeah, it was like nice and sunny. It was decently warm. Like where if you stopped to walk, you're still fine.
Yeah,
it was good.
Made some friends.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, but that was kind of the least of your worries,
right?
Health-wise,
right. Little did I know.
Yeah, this was just a precursor for the things that were to come, and kind of plague our life for the last 4 or 5 years now.
Almost 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be 3 years in April.
Wow, that's a long time. So why don't you share with people exactly what happened and led you to your breast cancer diagnosis / all the things that happened? I'll let you tell that.
Yeah,
story.
so I went for my first mammogram in February or March of 2022, and then I don't think they even call you. I don't know if they do, or if it's just your my chart. They were like, oh, you need to come back for more imaging. And they're like, that's not unusual. Tons of people have to have this done.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Come back in. So I was like, kind of nervous still, consulted Dr. Google, which you shouldn't do.
Yeah, as we all do anyway.
Even that was most of the time it's nothing. So went back for my second one. And when I went for my second mammogram, they had me go back to meet with the radiologist who was reading it. And I was like, well, this can't be normal. You're in a little dark room with this person. And he was showing me things. And at this point, your head is spinning, this, he said, we're going to call it a BI-RADS category 4. It's very likely malignancy, just being honest with you.
Yeah.
It really looks like it. So we're going to send you to have a biopsy done. We're going to send you for an MRI. We're going to have you consult with a breast surgeon. It's like, oh, okay.
Which is quite a lot to have thrown at you just by...
Right, at your mammogram appointment.
Yeah, where they're they send you the short little, come back in, and you're and you get that inkling in your soul where you're something is wrong.
Right, but at the same time, they're wonderful. This was at Falmouth Hospital. They hook you up with a nurse navigator who sits you down in a nicer room and kind of it's so this is we're going to help you get these appointments, don't panic, we'll work this out. So they got me together with my breast surgeon. They made the appointments for my biopsy and my MRI, which were back to back. So the biopsy where they do the core needle thing, super painful, not pleasant at all.
So much fun.
And then the next day of an MRI where you have to lay face down in the MRI machine and it's pressing on you where you just had the biopsy, and that wasn't fun.
I've gone through many MRIs. I've not had to be face down.
And it was at the end, it was 2022, so it was you're coming out of COVID, so you still have to have a mask on. So I've got a mask on face down, it's hard to breathe, and they play the music, but you can't hear it because of all the sounds.
The music that they give you in an MRI always makes me laugh because they make a big deal out of what music do you want? I'm do you think I can hear it?
What music do you want to hear for the few seconds in between the scans?
Yeah, you actually think I can hear the music?
Yeah,
we cannot, unless you're getting just your foot or your toes MRI.
Right.
And your head is that far out of the machine. You're not gonna hear any of that music.
No, not at all.
Especially if you're getting right here, your full body is in that machine at that point. So you get all those appointments set up. It's great that Falmouth Hospital has that system too.
Yeah.
That's great.
So all the while I'm going through these appointments and diagnostic procedures, I had been training for the 2022 Boston Marathon. And I'd been training with Diana Clark from the running club, who's a friend of mine from work and from running and outside of work and everywhere.
Yeah.
So it was hard to talk about, I didn't want to tell my parents that anything was wrong until I knew. I wanted to be this is my diagnosis and this is the plan. So I didn't talk to them. I didn't even talk to my husband that much about it because it was hard. When someone's just too close to the situation, I would have just been crying the whole time. So I would talk to Diana. Like, we would go out on our long runs training for Boston. And so, we've got 20 miles on a Saturday around Boston, around Falmouth. And I would just tell her, like, this is what's happening, like, this is what we know, this is, maybe what I'm thinking might happen, if this scenario, this is what I think we'll do. And one of the great things that came out of those runs, beyond just having someone to vent to and just, like,
a friendship.
Yeah, was I was like, if this is what happens, I wonder if James, my 12-year-old, who was 9 at the time, would want to run the road race for a breast cancer charity, because he was turning 10 in May, and that ended up turning into a whole thing. Like, he's raised, I think, over $8,000 now for Massachusetts Breast Cancer Coalition. So,
wow, that's fantastic.
But that all came out of those conversations that Diana and I had.
Yeah, I mean, I will definitely, as someone who's gone through, like, pretty major health things as well, too, having that person who's just, like you said, not as close to the situation, that you can just, like, vent to, and, like, that what you tell them isn't going to, like, because, like, if you tell your husband, like, the way that he treats things and treats, like, your kids and, like, the whole situation is going to change. That.
Right.
Or if you tell your parents, like, I know my parents, too, if I tell them, like, if God forbid, I was to, like, have breast cancer and I walked out of here and I was like, guys, they just, everything would hit the ceiling all at once. And it would just be, like, a meltdown of epic proportions that internally sometimes you're just not ready to deal with.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't have all the answers yet either, too. Because those people are going to ask you, like, a million questions.
I think telling my parents was, like, probably the hardest part of the entire process. Like, harder than telling Matt, harder than hearing it myself.
Oh, yeah. Because you're like, what are they going to do? Like, that they're going to feel, like, guilty in some capacity because you're their kid. And they're like, what did we do? Blah, 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 whatever format their parental guilt finds itself in. But... again, as someone who, I haven't had to break cancer to anyone, but, like, calling my mom when I was in the ER, like, they were threatening my emergency surgery, I was like, I don't really want to do that. Do I have to call? I was like, can I just call some of my friends? Can they just come and help me out? But it's hard when you're going through a big medical thing. And it's really valuable. I'm so glad that you had Diana.
Yeah.
Like, that's, like, life-saving right there.
It was like, invaluable to my sanity. And
100%.
Yeah.
So, but you got to the Boston Marathon.
Wait. So hold on, back up. So a little Falmouth Running Club connection.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So I was off from work at the end of the week because I had all these procedures done, and they were like, for your physical and mental health, you don't go back to work this week.
Yeah.
So I was meeting with Jack Farian at the Falmouth Running Club office. I don't even remember what about. But that was when they called to give me my diagnosis over the phone.
No.
So poor Jack, I, like, didn't tell him what it was, but, like, I'm like, he's got to know what's happening because he's... The office is small. Like, you can't not overhear someone who's on the phone in there.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure your whole demeanor just shifted.
Right.
It went from we're like passively okay to, like, not okay.
Right. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. That was where I received my diagnosis.
So Jack Farian was the same.
In the Falmouth Running Club office.
And, I mean, granted, he's a pretty chill and calm dude. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was totally fine. It was me. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm making it awkward.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like as far as, like, other people who that could have happened in front of him, that's actually not a bad audience.
Yeah.
Like, and he won't tell. Like, if you told him, like, hey, like, just don't tell anyone. Like,
it's just the kind of thing you'd rather get, like, when you're alone in your car.
Yes. So that way you can immediately cry for about an hour, and then someone will be like, why are you late coming home from work? And you're like, oh, and you're still, like, really shook up and everything. Mm-hmm.
So now, like, I meet with my surgical oncologist, who is delightful. She was so nice and so supportive. And I had said to her, like, hey, listen, I've been training for the Boston Marathon for, like, 16 weeks.
Yeah.
And she wanted to do my surgery really quickly. I was diagnosed with a really aggressive form of breast cancer. Mm-hmm. It was hormone receptor negative, which is more challenging and tends to be faster growing. And it was also nuclear grade 3 cancer, which is the highest grade. So
you really just got the kit and caboodle, didn't you?
So she was like, we need to do this, pretty quickly. We want to get this taken care of. And so I said, this is when this race is. It was the 20th, April 20th, because it was the day no, my surgery was the 20th. It was the 18th. Yeah. April 18th. Matt's birthday is the 19th. My surgery is the 20th. So I said, can we wait until after April 18th? And she had to consult with plastic surgery because they work together. So she got back to me and was like, okay, so we can, but it's going to be April 20th, like literally less than 48 hours after you're done. And you have to take care of yourself. She said, if we let you do this, you have to go slow, you have to listen to your body, you have to hydrate more than you think you do. And I'm bad at hydrating because I don't like to have to use the bathroom in races.
Yeah, same.
So I was like, okay, got it. So I talked to Diana, and Diana, like at the same time, just kind of by chance had I think a hip injury.
I remember you telling me that she had also had something that put you guys like pace-wise,
right,
like the same boat.
So she was like, I will gladly like just do it with you. We'll go slow. It'll be awesome.
Party almost.
Yeah, we had people kind of paced out along the course who had like cold Gatorade and water and snacks and things for us, and we could refill our water bottles. We took it really easy. We stopped and waited in line to take a picture with Spencer, the dog.
Who has since passed away.
He has since passed away. And it was like, when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that like...
You stopped to take a picture with Spencer,
right,
the
and
dog.
if, not that it's good that you want to be like running with this serious medical trauma, but if we weren't running, thinking like, oh, we're taking it easy, like this is just for fun, we would have kept going. We waited in a line to take a picture with a dog. Who was spectacular, like the best dog.
A very cute dog.
The stars aligned, like I've run by him before.
Yeah. I've run by him the 2 years that I did it too. I don't have any pictures with him, so you got me beat on that one. And for anyone who's watching too, Spencer's this golden retriever who holds a flag. Did go a little flags in his mouth. He's so cute.
And his sister's Penny, or was Penny, she passed too.
Oh, I don't think they got any more labs. Did they? Oh, they did? Okay, good. They should.
Yeah.
They're very cute. Lindsay's like, I do keep up with the dogs.
I do keep up with the dogs.
The other things, no, but the dogs, the dogs are priority.
Yeah. So anyway, so we went slow, we had fun, we did it. Yeah. I mean, the pictures from that year are amazing.
I remember you showing me the pictures. I was like, wow, you guys like having a party, aren't
you?
Like
we were just so happy. Like coming up the street toward the finish, we're like holding hands with our hands up in the air, smiling, and we finished and
you had a good time?
We did. We had a great time.
I think that was like the perfect send-off for you, like into what would then become maybe not the best experience in the entire world, but
The next day I had to have all my pre-op testing, and the day after that we checked into Cape Cod Hospital at like 6 a.m. And I mean, it was really scary. Again, it was like coming out of COVID, so Matt wasn't allowed to come in with me, so he just had to drop me off at the door, and
You must have been so nervous.
Yeah, it was really, and I had never had general anesthesia before.
Oh, okay.
Really nerve-wracking, but the hospital staff, at this point I was at Cape Cod Hospital, I was no longer at Falmouth Hospital.
So you didn't know the staff there.
But they were so nice, and like everyone knew who I was and that I had finished the marathon on Monday. Like every staff member that came into the room were like, you're the one who just ran the marathon. Like, that's so amazing. Like, it made me feel really, really good.
Oh, that's great. That's like, I mean, I'm the person too who also like when I'm having a bad day, I'll put this jacket on and I just walk around because people will like, they don't look at the year that's on the back of your jacket. They just see, especially here in Massachusetts, they see Boston Marathon and they like, wow, you ran the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm like, yeah, I was having a really crappy day, so I came out to outsource some things from you, my friends.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that like it spreads and it makes you like you just feel better, especially in a situation like that where I'm sure knowing you, Lindsay, like you were very nervous.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like especially not being able to have Matt there and like your kids are at home too. Like I'm sure you were just like out of your brain nervous.
Yeah, and it's funny because now like in everything that's happened since then, I've had so many surgical procedures that I'm like, put the mask on, let's go. Next thing I know, I'll be awake. But yeah, it was really, really scary. But we did it. So less than 2 days after I finished the marathon, I had a bilateral mastectomy and got it out.
Yeah, and when you woke up, you had like the drains and everything?
I did have the drains, yeah. And like, I mean, you can't walk. You literally can't walk on your own. So you have to call the nurse to bring you to the bathroom. And I had to have...
That's a wild contradiction from
it was.
Like the 26.2 miles and then just being like, I would like to move 5 feet.
Yeah, it was really mentally difficult to be like, I was just in marathon shape and now I can't walk without help. And I mean, when I went home, I had to take a month off from work. I'm a teacher, so it's like a kind of physically demanding job, but not
Yeah,
really, but you
can't even walk to
can't.
the bathroom by yourself.
Yeah, you
You
can't.
can't
You
deal with
can't. You
kids.
can't do it. So
Plus, you have like the kids who have like special needs
I
and
do.
stuff too, and they can be just being someone who's also worked with kids with special needs. Like, they can be kind of physical sometimes without meaning to be.
yeah,
And it's definitely a little bit more, I would say, slightly more physically demanding than like your average teacher job.
Yeah.
Not that physical teacher jobs aren't physically demanding.
well, it was interesting because I went back after 4 weeks and I was ready. Like I was walking, like, and that's I think one of the most important things with my recovery. Like as soon as I felt like I was able to, and I had permission, we started walking. Like I would just walk up my street, and then the next day I'd like walk up my street and around the corner. And by the time I went back to work, Matt and I were walking like probably almost 2 miles a day, which
That's
was
pretty good.
impressive.
Yeah.
But then I went back to work, and the first day I came home I was like, oh my gosh, like you don't realize how much you use your arms
Yeah.
at work as a teacher until you can't use your arms. I mean, I could use them, but it was so much work. Like I came home and was so sore. Like it was wild.
So, like, what exactly happens where you can't, like, walk, or is it just because of, like, the shock to your body?
Yeah, it's like a major trauma to your body.
Ah, okay. Because just because it is, like, concentrated up here.
Yeah.
And I know when I had my surgery, like, I was encouraged, again, because it's GI surgery, to, like, get up and walk immediately. And as being the crazy person that I am, and you can probably identify with this if you were in this situation, I learned that L curve of the hallway real well. I did like 20,000 steps a day
Oh, wow.
on the L curve. Well, because I would just I'd get up at 7 a.m. and I was bored.
Yeah.
And I would like slowly walk up and down the L curve for like the whole day. Just because I was like, and I wanted to poop real bad.
Yeah.
I was like, I have motivation for this. And it's just like, I listened to audiobooks and podcasts, and I was just like walking all day because I'm just like, I'm bored. I can only sit in the bed so much. So.
Well, then I didn't get permission to run yet at this point. So like a month after I'm back to work, but I still can't run. I don't remember if I was allowed to use a spin bike, but.
I remember you started on the spin bike first.
I did start on the spin bike for sure. I just don't remember the timeline, but like maybe a little over a month after I had that surgery, I ended up having to have another surgery. I had to have my fallopian tubes removed. It's like well, wait, let me back it up. So aside from like, on top of my aggressive breast cancer, I also found out that I have a cancer gene. I have the CHEK2 gene, so it's kind of lesser known. It's not as popular. I'll use that term loosely.
Trendy.
It's not as trendy as BRCA1 and BRCA2, but we didn't know that my family even had it. My grandmother had passed away from breast cancer in her 50s, but no one, it hadn't even been discovered yet, so no one knew that, and no one made the connection really until they tested me, and they're like, oh, so removing your tubes can reduce your risk of ovarian cancer.
Okay.
Because my oncologist said the theory is that a lot of ovarian cancer actually starts in your fallopian tubes.
Interesting.
So we had those removed.
Okay.
And when they were taking those laparoscopically, which is a pretty minor procedure, they discovered that my appendix was terribly infected and just took that out too.
Just for funsies,
right.
you know?
So I woke up and I was like admitted to the hospital. I was like, what is happening? And they're like, you can't go home. We had to take your appendix out. Like, we took pictures to show you. And I was like, why would you do that? Like, I believe you.
I know you kept me for a reason.
Right. So, and like, my medicine made me really, really sick. It was just a yucky, tough recovery from that. And it kind of like, you're back to at least walking, and then that like knocks you completely back again to like starting over again. Like, okay, let's walk up and down the street.
I just remember every time I talked to you, there was something else new that was happening. I was like, how can this all be happening in such close succession to each other?
Right. I lost a lot of body parts that spring.
Yeah, you did. You can start like a black market agency where you can sell these all. Be like, would you like to buy an infected appendix?
Right. But my goal the whole time was like, I'm going to run the Falmouth Road Race because that's my job. Yeah. And I love it. And I don't want to miss it, and I'm not going to miss it. Yeah. So I run the road race every year with my DSLR camera. I've been doing it for 7 years. Yep. And it's like my favorite thing. It's so cool. It's just, I didn't want to miss it. So that was my goal. So as soon as I got permission from my array of surgeons that now I have to get permission from.
Yeah, your bouquet of people that you now own.
I started low impact stuff on my spin bike. And then I started running, and I built up to 7 miles before August. I want to say in like June or late June. It was pretty quick. Once I got back to running, like
your body was like, oh, okay, we've done this.
Yeah, like muscle memory. Okay, you got this.
Yeah. I think that's like, it's good to remind people who are runners that your body remembers at least something that you did. And I mean, I think it's inspiring, and I think you're awesome for like getting up and like doing something like that, because it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially from what you went through, and like after the family. I know there's some other stuff that you're going to talk about too. That's like after those things, because I know you had some like revisions and all. I
did. I had to have like two. Did I have two revisions? I had one revision. I had like a second reconstructive surgery.
Yeah, because
and
you
then
got implants, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then last fall, I had to have a capsulectomy because there was scar tissue. So much scar tissue had built up around the implants because it's foreign bodies.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like it's not a big deal. Like it really doesn't bother me. And my surgeon was like, okay, but if you don't do anything about it, it can get a lot worse. Oh. And it can cause like deformity, which no one wants to hear that word.
Yeah, you don't want to lopsided boobs.
Chronic pain.
Oh, yeah.
And range of motion issues. And I was like, okay, let's just do it.
Pulls on the muscles here that are like your arms and stuff too.
So I went ahead and did it because I was like, all right, might as well just get this done if they're recommending it. But then once I did it, I was like, oh, like he was right. I was like, okay. Like I don't think I noticed because like that was my new normal. Like it happened slowly and that was just like the way it was. And it wasn't the way anything had been for, the first 42 years of my life, but for the last year, that was how it was. And I didn't know there was any different. But once I had that done, I was like, oh, okay, I did need that.
Yeah. That was, I just remember you just like constantly going for like medical appointments and things like that and like revisions and all these things.
But since then, I haven't, knock on wood, have not had any more.
That's good. Let's keep it that way.
Yeah. And it's been good. Yeah,
we let your body have its freak out point in time, and then we say, thank you so much, that was enough. We do not come back to the hospital anytime soon if we don't have to.
Right.
So, but I mean, for me, like, it's inspiring to me, like, how you just kept moving throughout the entire thing. And just, like, you had so many goals in your head. Do you feel like it helped to, like, have goals?
Absolutely. Like, from the beginning, because like I said, when you first have the mastectomy, like that's such a major trauma to your body that like
it's like you got in like a huge car accident,
right?
Essentially.
And like they always talk about how you have T-Rex arms, right? Like because it affects your whole upper body. Like I couldn't do anything with my upper, like I couldn't reach into the cabinet to get a plate.
Yeah, because your range of motion is like essentially like sucked inward from
these
muscles.
And here. I research everything like exhaustively. So like I'm in all these groups for patients who've had similar things and reading people's blogs and like finding out everything that I can. And a lot of it was about how like, people develop cording, which is like where the scar tissue, I had to have lymph nodes removed too. So I had like lymphedema stuff. But
of course we have something else that we forgot to mention.
Yes, lymphedema. But that, and then just the general recovery for your upper body. So I started from the beginning where I would do like Peloton light weights and arms classes in my kitchen with no weights. But I was like, I'm moving my arms. Like I'm getting, and I think that helped so much. And like every time I would go into the doctor, they were like, oh my gosh, I was like, your range of motion is really phenomenal. It's like, well, I work really hard.
I am a Peloton girly now.
I got my blue circle every day, even right after my surgery. So yes.
I love that.
But and then just the progression of, okay, I can walk, like now I can run, now I can run 7 miles, now I can run 10 miles. And I haven't done another marathon since then. And I think part of it is that there's like a trauma bond for me with marathon training in my diagnosis.
Which makes sense.
I'm not over it yet.
Yeah,
but I've run, like when Diana was training for Chicago, I ran her 20-miler with her. So like, I know I can do it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that too. With my weird arthritis thing, I had fall on black ice. That's what kind of started it all. And and that was like 2018 or 2018. And I've just started like trail running, but when it's like slightly icy out. And like I only do that with someone, but like I came back from trail running with Ben the other day out. It was icy and we like went around some spots. So I was like, you don't understand how big that was for me.
Yeah.
To like actually go out there and not just be like, nope, we're done. This is the end. Like I'm going on the treadmill. I'm so sorry. But it's like, I totally get it. It took me like 5, 6, 7 years to get to a point where I'm like kind of getting over that. And also someone like being there physically next to me and me being like, it's okay, Julianna, if you fall, the ground is softer here. It's not the pavement. and Ben will pick you back up. I'm like, okay. The mental hula hoops you like things you jump through sometimes. But yeah, like I totally get that. And like there's no rush though either.
Right.
I feel like whenever you get to running, if you ever get back to running marathons, if you'd like to, like, so be it. There's no rush.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're doing the distances that you like. You're getting to participate in the Falmouth Road Race every year, which for anyone who is watching, Lindsay is the social media coordinator for the Falmouth Road Race extraordinaire. And like that, if you're doing the things that you like, then why go outside your comfort zone to a point that's like trauma informed?
Right.
When you don't need to. So until you feel like you want to, I'm sure eventually, knowing you'll probably come across some like marathon or honestly probably I imagine you doing a trail race like at some point that's like a 50 miler, and you're like, yeah, I'm not going to do a marathon, but I will do a 50-mile race, because that's generally speaking I feel like the rationale for a lot of runners who are like, I'm done with the marathon, I will now take on the 100-mile distance because I'm retiring, quote unquote. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, retire to the 100-mile distance, why don't you? But I like whenever it comes to you, it comes to you, you know?
Yeah, it makes you happy.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I think it's like, yeah, like having all the goals that you've had, it's inspiring to me to just like see what happened, like physically be there in the first moment of like whatever this like shit and shenanigans was that was happening, and then just kind of be like a faraway witness to like everything else that was happening.
Yeah.
And then just like see you here in front of me as like a functioning like adult human who's doing their job, is out there running, and like you run and walk a lot. Mm-hmm. Like I see you on Strava and you're like,
well, Bailey, my dog, would have it no other way with the walking.
I was gonna say, like, Bailey takes you outside quite a lot.
She does.
Myrtle's not as aggressive. Myrtle's not a long distance dog. She's a sprinter.
Oh, so Bailey sees you put your shoes on and you get the eyes.
We do get that, but Myrtle tires out very quickly.
Oh, no, Bailey does not tire out quickly.
Yeah, we go on the long walk during the summer, like the warmer months, and it's like we go to the marina and back. It's a little over 2 miles. At about a mile, she just stops and like sits on the ground. And I'm like, my friend, we walk all year round. Like, you can do this. And she's like, no. I'm like, I'm not carrying you. You weigh too much. That's not happening.
So. Oh, Bailey loves to walk. And there's one funny Bailey walking story. So she loves to walk and she has certain routes that she likes to do. So we were out walking this summer in July, and I got a text from my cousin that says, Finn, my 9-year-old, just fell out of the tree in my front yard. Oh, yes. You need to come home.
Oh, yes.
So it turns out he has broken 2 bones in his arm. So, like, we really need to come home. But Bailey is a walker, and she wants to walk her route. So she's, like, puts her front legs out, like, completely stick straight, will not move. I'm, like, dragging her, like, physically dragging her home. Like, oh, Bailey.
Oh. She's also the master of the artful poop.
She sure is. She likes to poop on top of things.
Everything.
Everything and anything.
If you think that Bailey can poop on top of it, she can.
Bushes, fences, rocks.
That weird little spiky doodad that was a weird plant thingy. Just like anything that...
Like, the more difficult it is for you to pick up, the better.
We love things that the poop falls into.
I got my husband an ornament last year for our tree.
That says dog poop?
It's a dog pooping, which is like so tacky, but I was like, I couldn't not buy it because it's so classic Bailey. Like, you have to understand.
Yeah. That's it's lore, it's history.
It is.
It's part of being a Benson at this point. That's just like, that's what you got to do, you know? But yeah, it's so funny. I love Bailey. She's great. But yeah, it's so good to see you just like in being active and like enjoying being active too. Like, not pushing yourself to a point where you're like, I hate this.
No, I am so grateful. Like, and I've said that to people. Like, I would bring James to track. Sometimes he still goes to the Wednesday track when we can, because we're at soccer a lot.
Yeah, soccer too.
And I don't do a lot of speed anymore because it hurts. It doesn't hurt. It feels bad. It feels weird when I go too fast. Like, it feels in my upper body, it gets this very strange sensation. And I don't know if it's from the nerve damage or what it is, but I don't like it, so I don't do it. So James will do the track workout, and I just kind of run around the outside of the track. And
just have a nice time.
Right, and I'll say, like, you know, and that's fine. Like, I'm happy with that. I'm just happy that I'm able to do it. Like, I'm happy that I can run. So, like, cool, like, it doesn't bother me that I can't keep up with my 12-year-old or that I can't do the speed workout. I'm so happy that I am able to do it.
Yeah, Same. I feel like a lot of people who have had like cancer or like some kind of chronic illness will identify with that too. Of like since like I know I can say for myself too. Like since I've gone through a lot of health issues too. Like I'm just happy to like get out there sometimes. And people ask me too. They're like, Julian, why don't you speed train all the time? I'm like, well, sometimes I just can't.
Yeah. Well, then I have the GI stuff like you too.
Yeah.
Not the same, but like I have celiac disease, which I didn't know until I went for a cancer screening.
And then they found
in
it
2022.
Yeah.
I went for a colonoscopy and endoscopy.
Oh boy.
Just
fun.
expecting to check, colon
little
cancer
duo right
screening
there.
because that's a high risk cancer for my cancer gene. And they were like, well, everything looks good there. However, we think you have celiac disease.
And
It's
you're
like,
I love
what?
this for myself.
Right? Okay. So like, and usually I'm fine with that. But, if you get contaminated with gluten, it's not good. And I also have ischemic colitis.
Oh, okay. So
Which
is
is
it like chronic ischemic colitis or like just like coming and going?
It comes and goes, but so I see my GI specialist for that. He said a lot of runners actually have it. He said, but it's not talked about a lot because it's gross.
Yeah. Well,
But he was like, distance runners, he said it is a population that he sees it a lot in. And I actually like, when I'll have like some kind of issue running, and it happens sometimes. Like I know where all the bathrooms are along my outside routes, and
at
that's
some point I'm gonna make a porta potty map of Falmouth. Don't
the
worry
great
about
thing about running at soccer practice in the loop is like
is there
there's
porta
always
potties?
porta potties. There's two. But like sometimes I'll have to run home, and it is what it is. And I can usually tell whether it's did I get gluten or is this an ischemic colitis flare, because they're different. Like I think when you have two different GI diagnoses, there's very clear which one it is. And
no, I mean, even again, someone who deals with a lot of GI issues, like I know when something is happening, or like I know when I have a GI blockage starting or something, and I'm like, not again.
It's funny that we've like talked about stuff. This happened and this happened. Oh wait, and I forgot all about this whole thing, like that too.
Like, if we didn't have enough health issues already,
Now we have this, yeah.
now it's this, and this, and this. But
it doesn't affect my running that much, but
yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that too. Like it just like sometimes I like to say I have runs where I call them porta potties per mile, where I have a high ppm rate, where I have to make sure there's like I go outside and I'm like, okay, like I feel like I can go for this run, but like there's something inside my soul that says like we need to go on a route where there might be a porta potty accessible.
yeah.
Closely enough, and that's where we go on a high ppm per mile.
Or that's another time when I'm happy I have my treadmill, because like
exactly same.
I can just run upstairs and it's not a big deal.
Same. Like I, as someone who lives alone, like and my dog does not use the toilet, I have prime access to the toilet in my apartment, and like I've definitely had days, a lot of days, where like I'm just like I really want to go for a run. I'm either going to be taking a poop on the toilet every like 5 minutes, or I could be running and just like take breaks every 5 minutes. And that's what we do, because I feel worse if I'm just sitting there.
Yeah.
So it's just, and like a lot of the times too with GI issues, it's kind of good to get some movement into your body.
Yeah.
And so I usually feel like way better at the end than I did at the beginning. But it is having that toilet there. It's key. It's clutch. We love it. It's a nice time. Well, I don't like going to the gym either.
Oh, I don't go to the gym.
Yeah, I used to go to the gym. I go there to do weightlifting now, but like running on the treadmill at the gym is not the vibe for me.
We have like a home gym, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I've had my own treadmill now, I think, since like right after I moved down here, like 2018 maybe. Just because like as soon as you start distance training and you have to go to the gym and then it shuts off at you in an hour, or like you get off the treadmill to use the bathroom and someone takes your treadmill and you're like, oh, I still have like 10 miles left. Like, oh gosh, what am I gonna do now? So not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we've kind of reached like a good point. But do you have any running goals you're working towards right now, Lindsay?
I mean, is it terrible that I don't? Not
No.
really. I mean, just to keep going. Like,
Yeah,
keep
I think
going.
That's a good goal.
Not fall off the back of the treadmill this winter.
That's also a good goal. We like
Right?
that one too. Same. Same.
Yeah, and just kind of maintaining and see what the future holds.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, when I was working at the running shoe store and people would come in, they're like, oh, I'm just running. I'm like, training for mental health is a valid reason. Like, that is a good thing to be training for. Honestly, more important than any race that you can ever train for is training for your own sanity.
Yeah, I get so grumpy if, like, I don't get to, like, the kids with the 2 9 p.m. nights. I talked to Matt and was like, so there's 2 nights that they're at soccer till 9, so you're going to do one and I'll do one, because I cannot take more than one night off.
Yeah, I will be a grumpy puss.
Yes, we don't want that.
Yeah, we don't need that, like, and it's good, too, to set a good example for your kids. Just
Yeah.
like, and obviously you have for James and Finn, just to show them, like, yeah, you need to prioritize your physical and mental health. in some way. Because even when life throws like crazy things that like would have happened to you, like you can still get back up on your feet, and you still also gotta take care of your brain too.
Yeah.
So, which again, like having Diana there and all these other things, and like I'm sure having the Falmouth running community was helpful as well too. Just because it's a good resource thing. I will say too, you're the person who kind of inspired me to like go into like Facebook groups about like certain like chronic illnesses too. Because I remember you telling me about that. I was like, oh, I didn't realize they existed, and like now I'm part of like a bunch of different random Facebook groups and also subreddits now. I discovered like the ankylosing spondylitis subreddit like a week or two ago, and I was like, wow, this is great. So just like having those resources is really helpful.
Yeah.
So you did inspire me to look into those too. So I appreciate that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, helpful. But yeah, so that's a good thing. Is there anything like you'd like to say towards the end of the episode? Anything you'd like to leave listeners with? Any like things that Lindsay lives by, or maybe a mantra that you really like or that got you through your whole diagnosis? It can be multiple mantras. It could be just one. I know mine is usually you can only run the mile you're in.
Yeah, the only one that comes to mind, and I feel like I'm like stealing. We've talked about Peloton.
I stole.
I do a lot of Peloton stuff, and like I'll like use it as a hashtag a lot when I'm like I'm gonna do it, like no matter what. Is Jen Sherman Peloton says just fucking do it.
Yeah.
JFDI.
Yeah. I always like to say just chuck it in the fuck it bucket.
Yeah.
Like
just do it. Like even if it's gonna be hard and it's an uphill climb. I mean,
you're also,
just do it.
Like you're allowed to stop. Like if you realize it's too much for yourself, you are allowed to like stop halfway through. You gotta start it. Starting is the full battle, I feel like, most of the time. So, just fucking do it.
Yeah. I mean, I had to start over, so many times, but like, just fucking do it. Start over and get back there.
Yeah. Getting out there and trying is half the battle. So just do it, I love it. Fucking do it. We love it, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was fun.
Yeah, it's great. And thank you to everyone for listening and watching to the show. Don't forget you can find us on TikTok and Instagram at RunnahPod. You can send us an email at runnahpod@gmail.com. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that way you can make sure you catch the next episode. Who knows? It might be me reviewing shoes at how quickly my feet devour them. Could be. But until next time, we will see you on the next episode of Runnah. And that's the end.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where's the camera? I feel like I'm like looking and like
it's right below.
You're gonna be like showing it and I'm gonna be like.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Runnah. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Julianna Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at RunnahPod. And you can send us an email at runnahpod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.